Hey YouTube, it's your boy Widgie here, and in this video it's going to be a very different one. You've probably been seeing recently over the last month or so, I've been doing Age of Mythology content, and this video is primarily for my Age of Empires 3 viewers, which I hope is the majority on the channel. And this is going to be a guide for Age of Empires 3 players that are interested in playing Age of Mythology. I'm going to be breaking down the key differences, so hopefully it gives you guys the confidence to either boot up Age of Mythology or go out onto Steam and grab the extended edition so you guys can get ready for Retold, which should be hitting at the end of this year. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first big key difference between the two games is a resource drop-off location. For the majority of the gods that you're going to play in Age of Mythology, you're going to need to have a resource drop-off location for your wood, coin, and food. However, there is a caveat to this, and that is with the Atlantean gods. They are the closest to Age of Empires 3 in the fact that you don't need any resource drop-off locations, and the villages themselves act very similar to the German settler wagons in Age of Empires 3. So just something to bear in mind if you want to play a god that's super similar to Age of Empires 3. The second big thing that I learned after a few hours into the game is the resource collection rate. You're going to really find that your macro may be all over the place when you're first playing Age of Mythology. And the reason that is because it's the complete reverse of Age of Empires 3. So wood, instead of it being the slowest, is the fastest. Coin is the second mid resource, and the slowest in Age of Mythology is food. So it's complete reverse, ladies and gents. So you really got to rethink your whole macro, what you're going to be spending your resources on, and stuff like that. So the next key difference is population space. This is a real big one for Age of Mythology. So it's a lot more limited compared to Age of Empires 3. And also you tend to you're not able to field as many units because the actual population space per unit is generally a little bit more than Age of Empires 3. So what you really got to bear in mind is you've got to be constantly building houses, or building houses a lot more regularly than you are in Age of Empires 3. And also town centers are hugely important in this game, not just for an economic standpoint, but for a population standpoint, because they give you 10 extra population every time you grab one. So as you get later into the game, town centers become more and more important. And something unique about town centers, of course, is the fact that they are stationary, or static, on the map. So you can't start doing a turtle strategy where you have like 4 town centers, no one can push into your base. You have to get out onto the map. That's what I love about Age of Mythology. It encourages players to get out onto the map and to actually get town centers so you can boost population, field more units, villagers, and hopefully defeat your opponent. The next one is unit counters, and also unit composition as well. So the countering system isn't as crazy as Age of Empires 3. It's not as drastic, so there isn't as much focus in Age of Mythology around micro. It's more macro intensive. Of course, you still have the micro where you want to try and get some cav units onto archers, all that kind of stuff. Of course, we still have that, but there isn't a huge amount of focus because there's no snaring in Age of Mythology. And snaring is such a big thing in Age of Empires 3 when you're trying to micro. So it's something to bear in mind. Don't overthink too much about the counter system in Age of Mythology. It definitely has an impact, but it doesn't have as much of an impact as you think it does. Another key difference, of course, are the god powers and mythological creatures. The thing that sets Age of Mythology apart from any other of the games within the franchise. So let's have a look at the god powers. So every time you age up or you pick a god, when you age up, the picking of the god is so similar to Age of Empires 3, where you're picking maybe, a politician to age up on. You will have 2 options rather than 4 in the game, and when you pick an option, it will be a different kind of mythological creature along with a different god power. And they're the main differences when you're aging up. There are extra unique technologies that you can also get when you're selecting that god as well, but the 2 main things is a mythological creature and the mythic god power. And the god powers are all different depending on what you want to do in certain situations. It really sets the game apart, and it's something that you definitely need to use and bear in mind when you're playing the game. I think the final thing is the end game macro or end game economy. It's very different to Age of Empires 3. In Age of Empires 3, you may be getting banks onto the field, you may be putting down estates, farms, that kind of stuff. In Age of Mythology, you're creating a market. You want to create your market as far away from your town centers, start creating caravans. They will produce your gold when you start to run out of gold on the map. Wood is just wood on the map. If it runs out, you then have to buy wood through the market, which is very rare. And of course, food is through farms, but farms are generally built a lot earlier in the game, a lot earlier in the game in Age of Mythology. Very similar to Age of Empires 2, Age of Empires 4. You transition into farms way earlier compared to Age of Empires 3. Another important key difference is the Autocue functionality. This makes the game so much easier for people like me that are desperately terrible at creating villages all the time, creating military units. The Autocue function helps you so much. And it's something that you still have to keep your eye on, especially if you're planning to age up. You might need to cancel your Autocues in your military building, in your TC, if you're planning on macroing for an age up, for example. But it makes the game a lot more inviting for people that want to give RTS a go, and especially for people from Age of Empires 3. You will not have to worry too much, especially if you've been playing Ottoman, for example, from Age of Empires 3, where you don't have to, villagers come out of the TC automatically. The Autocue function is going to be there, and it's across all gods. It's a fantastic thing to see, and it's really refreshing and nice to have. One last thing is there's no treasures in the game. However, there are relics. So relics, just like in Age of Empires 4, for example, you'll need to pick them up with heroes and drop them off at your temple, and they'll give unique buffs to maybe, HP of walls, damage for units, all that kind of stuff. They're all kind of different in how they work. Very similar to how you would, take down explorers. You'd use explorers, to grab treasure guardians, and you'd get certain resources for that. It's kind of similar in that fashion, but a little bit different and very similar to Age of Empires 4, but that is obviously a key difference there as well. And one final thing is building cost. Now, what I was doing when I first played is I was kind of just dropping one barracks down, one archery range, and that was it. Because I was so trained in Age of Empires 3 that wood, because it takes so long to gather in Age of Empires 3, is the fact that you don't want to overspend on building too many military buildings. But it's complete opposite in Age of Mythology. You can't train batches, so you want to build more military buildings a lot earlier, potentially 3, 4, 5 military buildings relatively early on in the game, so you can keep pumping those units out, because there's no batch creation. Normally the military buildings cost around 100 to 150 wood, and as I mentioned at the start, wood is the quickest resource to gather, so a lot to think about and definitely something to bear in mind. Okay, ladies and gents, that's going to wrap it up. Hopefully there's nothing that I've missed. I'm sure there probably is, but of course, let me know down in the comments below if you can think of any key differences between the game. And as I mentioned at the start, I kind of want this to be something so people can start getting the confidence in playing the game. They can start to get interested in it. Maybe it's something they've never been interested in because it's very different to Age of Empires 3. And if that is the case, hopefully after this video, it sets some of your sort of woes and some of your concerns and stresses at ease, and hopefully you can either wait till Retold comes out and buy it, give that game a go. I'm definitely going to. Or if you want to get pumped and you want to get ready, you want to get that extra edge and advantage, go ahead and grab that extended edition that's available on Steam right now. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next video or the next stream. Catch you later. Bye.